Have you ever wondered what the narcissist is saying about you when you're not in the room? Here's the thing. They almost never talk about you in the way that you'd expect. And once you know their patterns, you'll see the hidden agenda in every story they tell about you. And yes, for the most part, you really shouldn't care what they have to say. But while some of you reach that point sooner than others, wondering is a natural part of recovering from an abusive relationship. But before we unpack what it is they're saying, I want to say to you, welcome back to the Common Ego community. My name is Christina, and I help people get back to themselves after emotionally abusive relationships. And if you're feeling stuck in the aftermath of a relationship like this, take my free quiz that's designed to help you figure out why you're feeling stuck. So now let's get to the first thing narcissists might say about you. And it all starts with the character assassination. So when a narcissist talks about you behind your back, it doesn't always sound like gossip. Sometimes it sounds like concern. Like they'll shake their head and say something like, "Oh, I wish she would just get the help she needs." Or, "Honestly, I was shocked when I found out who he really was behind closed doors." And on the surface, this makes them look like they care about what's going on with you, or like the poor, unsuspecting victim. But underneath, it's really just a well-planned character assassination. So they're planting the seed that you're unstable, unpredictable, or just plain too much. And here's where it gets especially tricky. When you finally speak up and share your side of the story, you can end up sounding exactly like what they've described. Defensive, overly emotional, maybe even bitter. Which not only makes you question whether you're the narcissist, but it also puts the other person in the awkward position of deciding who to believe. The truth is, sad as it may be, people usually believe the one who spoke first. Because in their mind, the first person didn't have anything to gain by bringing all this up. And the second person just looks like they're retaliating. Narcissists know this, and that's why they often sprinkle subtle comments about you all along. So by the time you finally break your silence, the groundwork is already laid. And the way they do it is more subtle than you might think. So now, let's talk about the martyr role. So another way they talk about you behind your back is by casting themselves as the long-suffering martyr. So they'll say things like, "I bend over backwards to make her happy, but nothing ever works." Or, "You wouldn't believe what I've had to put up with just to keep the peace." And it sounds kind of noble, right? It sounds like they've been endlessly patient with you and incredibly forgiving. And the story usually ends with them sighing, shrugging, or maybe even laughing a little like, "Oh, what can you do?" But there's something unique about this style, because if they're out there playing the martyr with other people, you'll probably recognize that story, because they'll also be doing it at home with you. So all of those little digs and heavy sighs and the constant reminders of all the ways they've sacrificed for you. This is a script that you know very well. So when you find out that they've been telling the same story over and over again out in public, it's not exactly a surprise to you. The character assassination, on the other hand, that can blindside you. Most of us don't expect that someone we care about is going to be planting seeds that we're unstable. But the martyr story, that's one you've probably heard 100 times before. But unfortunately, when they share it with others, it makes your truth harder to tell. Because when you finally speak up about what you've been through, it doesn't sound like abuse anymore. It sounds like you're ungrateful. So the person who's receiving your side of the story already has a preconceived notion of what you're like to deal with. And so they're listening to your side of the story through that lens. And you can bet that most of what you're saying is supporting the martyr story, because the narcissist is telling them that you have all of these crazy expectations of them. And so when you come in and say that they're not doing basic things, the other person might roll their eyes and say, "Oh, of course, This person thinks basic things are, jumping through hoops to make them happy. It really becomes kind of like a he said, she said situation. Even if it's two men or two women, you get the point. But ultimately, the people who are hearing their story and yours might end up feeling like you just couldn't appreciate how much the other person had to put up with to be with you. And that's what makes this martyr role so manipulative. It's not just about making themselves look good. It's about making you look bad by comparison. And once that narrative is out there, it really sticks. So now let's talk about another way the narcissist might be talking about you behind your back. And this is where we bring in the charm offensive. Because honestly, not every narcissist will trash you behind your back. Sometimes everything they say will sound like a glowing review, like they're your biggest fan. So they might brag about how incredible you are at your job or how you're the most devoted spouse and parent. But this isn't about celebrating you. It's all about appearances. This is the narcissist who needs everyone to believe that they've built the perfect family, the perfect relationship, and the perfect life. And behind closed doors, it's anything but. Because at home, you're not feeling lifted up by their words, not at all. It's actually quite the opposite. They're nitpicking you, they're withholding affection, and they're criticizing or reminding you that you'll never live up to what they're telling other people. They might even tell you how they have to lie to other people to make you sound good. And that is the danger of the charm offensive. Because to the outside world, it looks like they're really kind and very caring, like they really, truly, deeply care about you. So if you ever try to speak the truth, you're going up against the image that they've already sold. And that is that they're the person who would never do something like that. And once that picture is painted, you're the one who's exaggerating or even just plain making things up. So now we want to talk about something that makes it on almost any list when you're dealing with a narcissist, and that is projection. And it makes it on these lists because this is the narcissist's go-to move. This is when they accuse you of the very things they're doing. So if they're lying, you're the biggest liar in the world. If they're being selfish, now you're the one who never thinks of anyone else's feelings. And here's where it gets especially messy. Because if they've spent months or even years painting the picture of a perfect life, bragging about you, and cheering you on in public, people are going to believe them even more when they flip the script. Because if someone who always seemed to adore you suddenly changes their tune, the natural assumption is that something major must have changed, or that they finally got tired of your behavior. And that's the trap. Their public admiration becomes the perfect setup for their private smear campaign. It makes their new story sound credible because it looks like from the outside that they've tried everything before they've given up on you. But the truth is, you're probably going to deal with projection from a narcissist whether they've spoken kindly about you or not. Because projection isn't just a tactic they use on others, it's a lens they see the world through. And to be fair, they don't always know they're doing it. They don't see the irony in blaming you for the very things they can't face themselves. If you've ever tried to explain your side, you might have noticed you end up sounding a lot like them. And that can make you wonder if other people are sitting there thinking, well, you know what? They both sound the same. And this is why it is so important to maintain your own integrity through it all. So say less whenever you can. You don't need to match their stories or prove yourself in every conversation. The truth has a way of surfacing on its own. And when it does, people are more likely to believe it if you haven't been dragged into the mud with the other person. So instead of worrying about whether you're the narcissist, worry about protecting your peace, because that's what really matters from here on out. And if you want to go deeper into this, I've got another video that'll connect the dots for you. It's about all the things narcissists say when they realize that they're losing control. You can watch that one right here. And be sure to hit the like button before you go if you haven't already. And I will see you next time.